on a personal note, Ron, like I want you to go back to maybe the first time you had the opportunity to speak in front of people. I don't know if it was at school or I don't know if it was or in a professional setting. How would you say that this experience made you feel and what made you want to ask for more of that?
Well, this is something I'm working on with my coach, my coach Connie. Like, so for me, the first time I got in front of a stage, it was a spiritual event, and I got up, and I no one knew what to expect. I was not a good student. I was 13 years old, and I got up, and it was this huge thing, and I was like, oh, oh yeah, okay. What's up? Like this is kind of
You liked
nice.
it.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this feels freeing, you know? Whereas, and then I started doing theater, and so theater was awful. Like, so acting for me is terrifying. But give me a microphone and jokes that I write or songs that I like to sing or whatever, and I'm for me it's super comfortable. So for me it was this idea of being myself. And it took years to figure that out. It was an ugly journey. I spent a lot of time as a teacher, where I was succeeding in comedy. I don't know about teaching, but like I was succeeding in making the kids laugh, the students laugh. And then I was transferring that to the stage. And then throughout in that process, I did public speaking as well. Um, and yeah, to me it's just, and especially public speaking, because it's like you and I talk about this a lot too, is that it's such a pure art form because you're not beholden to make people laugh for jokes per minute, or you don't have to create a certain the audience is just wanting to hear you share your perspective, your story, your teachable tools, but they're not necessarily like this has to be really funny or this has to be dramatic or you have to sing on pitch. The requirements are very open. You could just be yourself and be conversational. So to me, I think discovering that piece of it made it go like, oh, like I get nervous, I get excited, all that stuff. But to me, I'm like, this is 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever it is. This is that block of time where I get to be myself. Like I just get to be who I was meant to be, who I'm
Mm.
supposed to be, who I can't be when I'm a dad because I have to listen. Like my kid's a star, so I can't be like, hey, let me show you something, you know, like let me tell you about life. Like that's mansplaining. We don't want that, you know. Nobody wants that shit, you know. So that's what about you though? I'm curious with you. What was your big moment?
The first time that it happened, I was in first grade, and my first grade teacher gave me the opportunity to lead half of the class while we were singing a song, and the song was a canon. So one side was starting, and then when the other side was starting, I had to like let them know when it was time to start. It was actually the first time I was in front of the class, like leading something. And I felt like great about it because, well, it ended up pretty well. Like we sang pretty well the whole thing. And in that same elementary school, we had I don't know how to call that in English, but in French it's called diction. Like you learn how to speak and articulate or how to correct mistakes. Like if you say something not the right way, then the teacher makes you learn how to say it properly. So it was always that same diction teacher for the 6 years of elementary school. And we also had to learn plays, we had to learn poems that we had to speak of in front of the class. And I realized that this is something that I really enjoyed doing. And there's some of them that I still remember by heart to this day because it was fun to do, right? And then eventually, like family wise, whenever we had a family thing, oh, you're gonna host this. You can do it. You can do it. It was always me. Like any type of anniversary that was special, like Fabian's gonna do it. And I wouldn't mind. I would love to do it. So I feel like, as you said, it's something that I'm there and I feel at ease. I'm there and I feel like I could be myself. I'm not putting on a show or trying to show up as someone else when I'm on stage. I'm just the same as when I am in real life. So I think that's what one of the things I enjoy also the most with public speaking is that, the person you see on stage is the person you see in real life. So to me, like, yeah, I had like many little proofs of people letting me know, like, hey, you do this. And I'm okay, I'll do it, right? But not really thinking seriously that I would be a speaker eventually, but just having this impression that it to me it was natural and people trusted me to do it also. So I guess it gave me like double confirmation that this was meant to be for me.
That trajectory, I think, is such a great thing to talk about, and we talk about this in our workshop as well. Is that there's so many different forms of public speaking. MCing, hosting is one, right? Like you can MC an event, you can host a podcast, um, and a lot of people do that, right? And it's very natural. I started off that way too. I used to MC events for a company, a DJ company. So
Mhm.
I emceed a lot of events, and then I was like, oh, I love this, and I got to riff, and like I had the script, and I got to riff, and so I emceed the Miss Illinois pageant, all these things, and I eventually I was like, oh, but I want to say what's, I was like, I want to say my own stuff now. I want to like, I'm like, I want to share what's in my soul, and I think like there's so many now in contrast, like there's so many ways you can do that. So it's okay, it's great to like start off just doing podcasts or just doing emceeing events or things like that, just to get your kind of wherewithal and just and get a feel for how you interact with an audience, and then go into like, okay, what's my soul yearning to share, so that trajectory is great. I see that with a lot of clients is that they'll start with like being interviewed or interviewing. Sorry, they'll start with
Interviewing. Yeah. Yeah.
interviewing people on podcasts, and then they get like like a flair, like they get a like a rhythm, and then they go, okay, I want to now talk, I want to now share, and then they go from just interviewing to like doing solo episodes where they're like, hey
Yeah.
guys, thank you for listening to my podcast. Today I want to share some things that happened to me that could help you, right? So that idea of moving from being like the one asking the questions to being asked questions to generating your own content. That's a flow. That's a progression that we will address at this workshop, is how to initiate, how to bring that content from within and organize it in a way that's super engaging for an audience.
Yeah. And what you said, like I totally related. I'm like nodding all the time. Yeah. Yeah. What he's saying is true. Because when I first started like being more serious with the online work was 2014, and I started a podcast at the time. And I interviewed a bunch of people. I would say out of 300 episodes, more than half of them are interviews. And then eventually, yes, I felt the urge to share my own stuff, right? Like stop asking people questions. Of course, it's great to create connections, to learn a lot. I learned a lot, and I know I've got to know a ton of people that I would have not known in that sense if I didn't have my podcast. But then eventually I felt like more prone to have my own episodes, but also being interviewed because it's a complete different game. And when you talk about gaining confidence on stage or within like what you think or how to express yourself, I feel like it's a great progression also because it shows that when you're okay with people interviewing you and not knowing the questions in advance, then you're like at a stage where you're fine with who you are and how you're going to come off like in that interview and how you're going to share your message because that's totally you. So
100%. Totally you, totally you, totally you. This is why we get into public speaking, right? Because there's no one else like you, and you are an expert. You know what you're talking about. You're passionate. The way you serve clients, that's all stuff we want to hear about. That's stuff we want to see. So if that's something that you're into, if you're like, oh, I know, I would say like it's on the tip of my nose, like I can't see it because it's on the tip of my nose, but like, oh my goodness, I have this message I want to share. I want to be me. Like I want to. It's working so well in my work, like one-on-one with clients, but now I want to transfer it to webinars or workshops or keynote talks that I can take all over the country, and take that message to the people, then come to this workshop. Like, don't hide from it. Just do it. Like, what is it? It's an hour and a half? Give me a break. You can do an hour and a half. Come on. People had so much fun the last time, right? They were like loving it. They stayed on.
yeah, and it's also very interactive. It's coming up April 3rd at noon Eastern time. If you're in different time zone, please do the math. And The last time that we conducted that workshop, the participants were very engaged and they asked their questions. We take time to actually laser coach while we're in there because we strongly believe in you getting out of the workshop and implementing stuff and changing stuff and having a new perspective or working on your keynote right away and see where that could lead you in the public speaking journey. So yeah, I would say like like don't hesitate. Even if you're already doing speaking and you feel like, oh, I would need to add like a little notch of up leveling my speech or making sure that what I say is really like memorable and people remember me and just just in general, if you really want to expand your message and make sure that it's in a way that showcases you and only you and your uniqueness, but also makes people go like, oh wow, I want to hear that person again.
And I love how you said upleveling. Yeah, it's true. Like if you even if you want to talk about like how do I bring story or humor into this? How do I enliven this content that I already have? Then come to this thing because you're absolutely right, Fabian. Like there will be spotlight coaching. We cap this off. We don't do like 100 people on this thing. Like right. Like we want it to be a group of people that are like focused and ready to go, and we'll work with you. We'll tag team. So you'll get two coaches kind of like coming at it from different angles, really getting to the root of what you want to say, how you want to say it, what's a story that could work, how to structure it in a narrative context. That like this is all about you. You will get that time. It's like massaging your work. So just come on in. It'll be fun.
So I think we said it all.
All right. I'll see everyone on the 3rd, April 3rd, noon Eastern. We'll just see you there. Okay.
Exactly. Yes.